New York City, the city where billionaires buy penthouses they never live in, rats run for office and win. And the subway is basically a sauna with wheels. And now, into the glorious mess steps Zohran Mamdani, the democratic socialist who wants to freeze your rent, make your bus ride free, and give your kid childcare without bankrupting you. Depending on who you ask, he is either the savior of the working families or the socialist boogeyman who's going to replace the Statue of Liberty with the hammer and a sickle. Tonight, we're not just talking about Mamdani, we're dissecting him and fact checking him, and all while asking, is this guy the progressive engine New York needs, or just inexperienced idealism wrapped in a campaign hoodie? And all this is actually brought to you by our first sponsor called Billionaire Tears. So enjoy.
This episode is brought to you by Billionaire Tears Tea, the only bottled water sourced directly from Wall Street executives.
When someone says tax the rich, now available in sparkling still, hedge fund salty, and ETF dark chocolate.
So, who is really Zohran Mamdani? He was born in Uganda, raised in New York, elected to the state assembly in 2021, upset winner of the 2025 Democratic mayoral primary. His story is immigrant grit meets New York hustle, but let's be real, in politics, biography is just a trailer. The real movie is what you promise to do once you've got the keys to the city hall, and Mamdani's trailer is basically a Marvel movie for socialists. Big promises, dramatic music, and at least one billionaire villain. What is his pitch? He'll freeze the rent for 1 million rent-stabilized apartments, make buses free, guarantee childcare funded by taxing the wealthy. Now, if you're a working New Yorker, that sounds like Christmas morning, baby. If you're a billionaire, it sounds like the IRS just stole your slate. And if you're the MTA, it sounds like someone you just suggested you provide a service without shaking people upside down for quarters. Now, let's see what Mamdani actually says in a campaign. This campaign is for everyone who believes in dignity for their neighbors, that the government's job is to actually make our lives better.
No, this is a decision that I've made to further the agenda I've run on, not to compromise that agenda. And I'm confident that in retaining her, it also means that we deliver the Department of Community Safety. It also means that we deliver a police response to protests that is not being done by the Strategic Response Group.
And this segment is brought to you by our second sponsor, the Rent Free Scandal Collections. Thank you.
Today's show is also sponsored by the Rent Freeze Candle Collection. Light one, and suddenly your apartment smells like affordable housing.
Who are the supporters for Zohran Mamdani? Well, we have 50,000 volunteers, over 1 million doors knocked. Platform resonates with renters and working families. Supporters say this is grassroots democracy at its finest. Critics say it's mob rule with better branding. Either way, it's impressive. You don't knock on 1 million doors unless you've got stamina or a lot of unpaid interns. Honestly, Mamdani's campaign has more volunteers than some religions have members. Some of the attacks, for example, Trump, as you can see here, Zohran Mamdani is 100% communist lunatic, has just won the Democratic primary.
Communist. I said there will never be socialism in the United States. Now we have a communist. So I think he's bad news, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with him, watching him, because he has to come right to this building to get his money. And don't worry, he's not going to run away with anything. I think he's, frankly, I've heard he's a total nut job. I think the people of New York are crazy. If they go this route, I think they're crazy. We will have a communist for the first time, really, a pure, true communist. He wants to operate the grocery stores, the department stores. What about the people that are there? I think it's crazy.
Now let's pause here. Communist lunatic? That's not just an insult. That's a branding. That's a bumper sticker. That's a Fox News tyrant waiting to happen. And it works because nuances doesn't trend, outrage does. But here's the reality check. Mamdani calls himself a democratic socialist, and many of his proposals mirror policies New York has already plotted. But try fitting that into a tweet. Actually, he's a democratic socialist whose policies are rooted in precedent, doesn't exactly light up the algorithm. And now this next section is brought to you by our Nuance application sponsor.
This segment is brought to you by Nuance, the political app nobody downloads. Why argue with facts when you can just scream communist into the void?
Some of the critics, they said that he has the limited executive experience, debate stumbles, questions about whether he can handle city government. Running for mayor is one thing, running the city is another. It's the difference between writing a Yelp review and running the business or the restaurants that you're writing the Yelp review about. New York is not an easy restaurant. It's a 24 diner with rats in the kitchen, customers who never tip, and a health inspector who's already been bribed. Some of the endorsements that he has received, one of the newest one is by Hakeem Jeffries, and he says that Zohran Mamdani has relentlessly focused on addressing the affordability crisis and explicitly committed to being a mayor for all New Yorkers. Well, when Jeffries endorses you, that's not just a pat on the back. That's the Democratic establishment saying, fine, he's our guy. Let's not blow this. It's like when your parents finally accept your weird boyfriend because, hey, at least he's not your ex. And some of the wins he actually made is $100 million for subway service, fare-free bus pilot, stop the power plant, hunger struck with taxi drivers for debt relief. And that's not just politics, that's a theater. In New York, theater sells. Broadway may be struggling, but Mamdani's campaign is sold out. Hunger strikes, bus pilots, power plant takedowns. It's like Hamilton, but with more Metro cards. How exactly would a rent freeze be funded? What's the timeline for fare-free buses? And how would universal childcare actually work? Because slogans are slogans. They're free. But budgets are not. And if you think Albany is just going to hand over the money, you've clearly never tried to get a budget passed in New York. It's like trying to get a cab in the rain. Technically possible, but you'll probably get splashed first. And the controversy cadence? Here's the rhythm. Here's the claim. Opponent ad calls him a communist. Counterclaim, Mamdani says democratic socialist. Quick data, 1 million rent-stabilized apartments. Fare-free pilots, already tested. That's the beat. Claim, counterclaim data. Rinse, repeat. It's like a political jazz. The same three notes play louder every time. And the audience, half are booing and half are clapping. And the rest are just trying to get home on a delayed effing train. So, is Zohran Mamdani inexperienced idealism? Or is he the progressive engine New York City really needs? That's the subway-sized question hanging over this election.
This is the rules and cab show. Bam, bam, calling shots like a maestro. This is the rules and cab show. Where the wild and the crazy grow. Turn it up, feel the rhythm flow. Hustle, rock, bam, bam. Let's go, let's go.
And until voters answer it, we're all just along for the ride. But here's the thing. Whether you love him or hate him, Mamdani has already changed the conversation. And in politics, sometimes that's the real victory. Tell me which claim you want to shred next, the funding math, the legal authority, or the so-called legislative wins. Drop it in the comments below, and definitely don't forget to subscribe, and I'll bring the receipts in the next episode. And if you're a billionaire listening, first of all, hi, thank you for slumming it with us. Second, don't forget to hydrate with Billionaire Tears, the sponsor I mentioned above. Represents a profound disruption of the American political establishment. His ascent is marked by both stunning grassroots success and ideological friction, creating a profile defined by deep-seated contradictions that opponents have relentlessly attempted to exploit. And primary victory and political arrival, Mamdani's arrival in New York politics began in 2020 when he was first elected to the New York State Assembly, successfully defeating a four-term incumbent Aravella Simotas in the Democratic primary. He continued his political track, securing re-election unopposed in 2022 and 2024. The pivot to the mayoral race began with his candidacy announcement in October 2024. For the majority of the subsequent campaign, Mamdani lagged in polling behind the establishment favorite, former governor Andrew Cuomo. The narrative shifted dramatically on June 24, 2025, when Mamdani claimed a stunning political victory, defeating Cuomo and 9 other candidates to become the Democratic nominee. This win immediately positioned him as the front runner in the November general election. Analysis of the primary results revealed that while Mamdani and Como raised similar amounts of money, Mamdani's donor base was considerably larger. This suggests that the energy fueling his progressive mobilization successfully translated into widespread small dollar financial support and a key metric for measuring effective grassroots power. The win was quickly interpreted as accelerating tensions within the Democratic Party, reflecting a national shift toward its younger, more progressive wing, especially concerning views on Israel and Palestine. Mamdani's identity is central to his political appeal and platform. He is celebrated as the first South Asian man, the first Ugandan, and only the third Muslim to ever serve in the NYS Assembly. His stated mission is to amplify the voices of communities that have been left out of states' politics and priorities. However, this champion of the working class and marginalized communities possesses an undeniable elite pedigree. Mamdani was born in Kampala, Uganda, and moved to New York City at the age of 7. His family background places him squarely within the global intellectual and artistic elite. His mother, Mira Neer, is an award-winning filmmaker known for works like Monsoon Wedding and The Namesake, and his father, Mahmoud Mamdani, is a distinguished anthropology professor at Columbia University. This deep contradiction, a figure from the global elite running on a platform of revolutionary socialism and anti-capitalism, has been immediately weaponized by critics. Opponents label him as promoting elitist politics and pushing socialist garbage while enjoying the comforts of a capitalist upbringing. This inherent tension, where his political mobilization is built upon fighting for the working class, while his personal history is marked by privilege, serves as the core dramatic fuel for the conflict surrounding his campaign, making him an inherently polarizing figure. Education, like Mamdani's academic history, reflects both privilege and a profound commitment to critical ideological analysis. After attending the Progressive Bank Street School, he enrolled in the highly competitive Bronx High School of Science. Rather than pursuing the typical path to Miley STEM degree, he attended Bowdoin College in Marin, graduating in 2014 with a BA in African Studies. This field of study provided the intellectual foundation for his political worldview, focusing heavily on the post-colonial politics and anti-imperialist movements. During his time at Bowdoin, Mamdani co-founded the college's chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. This formative experience establishes his decades-long commitment to anti-Zionism, confirming that his highly controversial stances on the Middle East are not opportunistic political maneuvers, but core ideological positions developed through years of practiced activism. For Mamdani, the education he truly values came from the clarity that the systems governing race, class, and immigration were not accidentally broken, but were working exactly as designed. This perception justifies his radical call for systemic transformation rather than incremental reform. Revolutionary ideology and early activism in his life was political identity is a composite built from his academic background, his controversial artistic expressions, and his direct boots-on-the-ground experience with poverty and displacement in Queens. Mamdani's deep dive into African studies at Bowdoin provided him with a sophisticated framework for viewing global issues as interconnected manifestations of colonial power dynamics. His early activism as a co-founder of SJP at Bowdoin is a critical data point, demonstrating that his commitment to anti-imperialistic causes, specifically Palestinian struggle, is foundational and long-standing. The timeline of his radicalization is highly relevant to understanding his current political trajectory. His anti-Zionist activism began during his undergraduate years, and this commitment was publicly expressed throughout its music in the following years. This demonstrates that these contentious ideological positions significantly predated his formal entry into electoral politics, making it challenging for opponents to dismiss his views as mere political opportunism. Instead, they must be confronted as genuine, unwavering ideological commitments, a future viewed by supporters as integrity and by critics as dangerous extremism. Before entering the assembly, Mamdani maintained a notable side career in the local hip hop scene, rapping under the monikers Young Cardamom and Mr. Cardamom, a period he once self deprecatingly described as being a B list rapper. This artistic past, however, became a critical point of attack when his mayoral campaign gained traction. Opponents seized upon specific lyrics from his 2017 song Salam, which included the line, I'm in love with the Holy Land Five. The Holy Land Five were executives of the Holy Land Foundation who were convicted in 2008 for providing material support to Hamas. The foundation itself was dismantled in 2001. Critics immediately interpreted Mamdani's lyric as explicit endorsement and support for convicted criminals tied to a foreign terrorist organization. Opponents, including one commentator, used this evidence to characterize Mamdani as so radical he might be some sort of Trojan horse, not just for Marxism, but for jihadism. This finding, rooted in his artistic history, provides a powerful, non policy based line of attack used to invoke fear and frame the candidate as ideologically dangerous. However, Mamdani has also leveraged his artistic background and social media fluency great strategic effect. His campaign successfully fused entertainment and politics, utilizing short, fast-paced, and highly informative viral videos posted on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. This innovative strategy, exemplified by videos showing him running the NYC Marathon while campaigning for the rent freeze or the Z scavenger hunt, designed to teach political history, allowed him to mobilize a massive base of young digital native voters by mid-June. His social media dominance was so pronounced that viral posts noted that simply tweeting his name could generate 1,000 likes. The approach successfully bypassed traditional media gatekeepers, creating a sense of community and making politics something that you do rather than something received. This strategic fusion helped explain his ability to overcome initial polling deficits and secure the nomination. Counseling and tenant advocacy. The direct inspiration for Mamdani's legislative career stems from his post-collegiate work as foreclosure prevention counselor in Queens. This job involved helping vulnerable residents avoid eviction and provided him with intimate knowledge of the city's housing crisis. He channeled this experience directly into policy advocacy. Mamdani explained that as a counselor, he regularly met with tenants living in fear, too scared to ask their landlord to turn the heat on during winter or remove mold from the bathroom because they lacked basic protections against non-renewal to their leases. The first-hand evidence fueled his powerful advocacy for the good cause eviction law. This landmark legislation, which puts in place basic tenant protections and grants tenants in unregulated housing the right to a lease renewal unless the landlord presents a legitimate reason like failure to pay rent, was enacted statewide in April 2024 and immediately applied to New York City. This accomplishment, along with the subsequent rent freeze proposals, solidified his credentials as a genuine representative of the tenant movement and the working class.
Together, New York, we're gonna freeze the rent.
Guess I'm rent controlled now.
Mamdani's mayoral platform is a definitive blueprint for social democracy, rooted in expansive government programs and aggressive wealth redistribution, representing the core good or constructive elements of his career. Mamdani's tenure in the assembly has been defined by concrete legislative wins aimed at alleviating urban economic burdens. He's notably recognized as one of the architects behind the Fare-Free Bus Act program, which removed fares from one bus route in each borough of New York City. This program, part of his Make Transit Affordable Act, has proven highly popular, with a subsequent MTA report indicating a 30% average ridership increase on weekdays and a 38% on weekends. Mamdani views this policy as critical for providing economic relief, enhancing public safety through increased ridership, and providing environmental benefits. He is campaigning to expand this to all city buses, arguing it would deliver for over 1 million residents. In the realm of housing, Mamdani sponsored the statewide broker fee ban, A00946. This bill, which prohibits landlords from demanding brokers' fees from tenants they hired, was a targeted move against the real estate industry, which he accused of bleeding tenants dry with unreasonable fees. The law aims to reduce upfront costs for renters, making housing immediately more accessible. Furthermore, his record includes aggressive proposals targeting institutional wealth, such as repealing the tax-exempt status of private universities that receive over $100 million in property tax exemptions. Core platform components in Mamdani's mayoral platform is unified by the central theme of affordability. Key proposals include an immediate citywide rent freeze for all stabilized tenants, impacting approximately 1 million units, public childcare, city-owned grocery stores, and a plan for a $30 minimum wage by 2030. Central to this vision is a massive proposed investment of $100 billion into public-led affordable housing. To finance this expansive social democratic agenda, Mamdani advocates for aggressive tax increases, explicitly stating in June 2025, "I don't think we should have billionaires." His tax plan involves raising the state corporate tax rate to 11.5% and adding a 2% income tax on millionaires, targeting those earning above $1 million annually. Perhaps it's his most strategically explosive proposal concerns property tax reform. Mamdani pledged to reduce taxes on overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs, while advocating to increase taxes on more expensive homes in richer and wider neighborhoods. The goal of this policy is to rectify a 1988 tax law that has systematically undervalued high-end properties. This language transforms a complicated administrative issue into a powerful populist rallying cry for systemic change, explicitly framing the tax debate in terms of class and racial justice, and thereby maximizing its political potential. The real estate and commercial sectors have voiced alarm, warning that this proposed citywide rent freeze and significant tax hikes could destabilize investment in the nation's largest property market and drive high earners and companies out of the city. Beyond industry criticism, structural challenges exist for implementing his most popular programs. For instance, the MTA is a state agency, meaning the NYC mayor lacks direct control. The cost of fully implementing fare-free buses is estimated at over $700 million. Finds a concrete, fully funded proposal for the total cost remains absent. The structural limitations indicate that even if elected, his ability to implement his key agenda items would trigger an immediate and complex political confrontation with the state's democratic leadership in Albany. Regarding public safety, Mamdani supports comprehensive reform, including establishing a new safety department tasked with handling community issues and subway crime, thus signaling a move away from relying solely on the police department. The central pillar of controversy surrounding Mamdani is his unwavering commitment to anti-Zionist ideology, which, combined with scrutiny of his personal history and family actions, has generated intense opposition and emotional debate across New York City and the nation. Anti-Zionism and the Intifada statement, Mamdani's position on Israel, is the single most defining and controversial element of his campaign, particularly significant in New York, which is home to the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. He has publicly stated he does not believe Israel should exist as a Jewish state. During mayoral debates, he was challenged on this point, refusing to answer explicitly when asked if Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. The most inflammatory controversy stems from his refusal to condemn the phrase "globalize the Intifada." This phrase is a rallying cry for aggressive resistance against Israel and its supporters. understood by many listeners to encourage violence against Jewish people and institutions. Mamdani stated that he would discourage people from using the phrase, but stopped short of outright condemnation. Opponents, including current Mayor Eric Adams, linked the phrase to violence, stating that telling Jewish residents they need globalized intifada, you're saying you don't care. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum publicly weighed in, declaring that exploiting history to sanitize globalized intifada is outrageous and especially offensive to the survivors, noting that Jews have been attacked and murdered under its banner since 1987. The policy conflicts demonstrates a clear causal relationship between Mamdani's ideology and political opposition. While his policy platform is hyper-socialist and popular among tenants, his anti-Zionist rhetoric creates a severe ideological rift. This stance threatens to fracture the progressive coalition, alienate traditional liberal, Jewish, and gay elements of the Democratic base, and underscoring how deeply foreign policy debates have penetrated and defined local municipal politics. Mamdani's campaign for equality and justice has been challenged by the resurfacing of allegations involving his father, Mahmoud Mamdani, the Columbia professor. The controversy centers at the events of the Make Career Institute of Social Research in Uganda, where the elder Mamdani served as a director. In 2016, Dr. Stella Nyanzi, a prominent Ugandan academic and a gay activist, accused Mahmoud Mamdani of locking her out of her office, stopping her pay, and preventing her from teaching a course on queer African studies. Nyanzi contended that Mamdani publicly misrepresented her work as an effort to teach homosexuality to students, a dangerous accusation given that same-sex relationships are criminal offenses in Uganda. Nyanzi responded by stripping naked and chaining herself to the university gates in protest. This controversy is politically damaging because it directly undermines Zohran Mamdani's progressive campaign themes. The perception of his family being linked to the persecution of a gay rights figure is further complicated by the fact that Zohran Mamdani was photographed with Rebecca Kadaga, Uganda's deputy prime minister and a prominent supporter of anti-gay right policies. This dual issue, stemming from his family's legacy, act as a potent line of attack, suggesting a potential hypocrisy beneath his progressive veneer. In a clear effort to generate controversy and distract from policy, Mamdani faced a manufactured scandal regarding his racial identity. Reports amplified by both traditional and right-wing media revealed that he had selected both Asian and Black of African American on a college application. Opponents, including then Mayor Eric Adams, characterized this as deeply offensive, accusing Mamdani of attempting to exploit an African American identity. The ensuing debate was framed by some conservative outlets as DEI scandal alleging Mamdani lied about his race for an affirmative action advantage. However, the controversy's cynical nature was exposed by the fact that Mamdani, born in Uganda to Indian parents, was articulating a complex multi-continental identity. Experts noted that for many Africans, the terms African, Asian, Muslim, these are not contradictions at all. The ultimate futility of the attack was highlighted by the fact that Mamdani did not even gain admission to the specific university in question. This event serves as an example of opponents leveraging nuanced identity issues into polarizing scandals designed to distract from his popular economic platform. His anti-Zionist stance, ideology, foreign policy refuses to affirm Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. Globalized intifada, rhetoric safety refuses condemn the phrase. Critics view it as a call to violence against Jewish communities. Family legacy, ethical conflict, father accused of torturing, persecuting, and gay rights academic in Uganda. Identity identification, authenticity race, accused of exploiting identity by selecting both Asian and Black or African American on a college application. Socialist hypocrisy, class economy, a champion of socialist policies despite being the son of a globally renowned, wealthy, and privileged parents. Political warfare, attacks, threats, and adversity, Mamdani's rise has been met with extraordinary institutional hostility and personal danger. Threats of violence and coordinated political attacks that attempt to disqualify him based on his religion and race. Islamophobia and weaponization of 9/11, the most visceral political attacks have involved the use of Islamophobic rhetoric, peaking with the desperate maneuvering of former Governor Andrew Cuomo. In the closing days of the race, Cuomo went on conservative radio and questioned Mamdani's suitability to lead the city during a major disaster, asking, God forbid another 9/11 happens. Can you imagine Mamdani in the seat? When the radio host interjected, seemingly suggesting that Mamdani would cheer the attackers, Cuomo chuckled and replied, well, that's another problem. Mamdani immediately condemned the comments as disgusting and racist attacks aimed at preventing the city from electing its first Muslim mayor. Cuomo's spokesperson attempted to rationalize the comments by referencing Mamdani's close friend, political commentator Hassan Piker, who once made objectionable remarks about 9/11, although Cuomo himself did not mention Piker during the on-air exchange. This rhetorical aggression provides the pretext for extreme opposition. Republicans, including Representative Elise Stefanik, repeatedly labeled Mamdani as a jihadist. Furthermore, anti-Mamdani super PACs ran ads featuring Mamdani alongside Imam Siraj Wahaish, who was tangentially connected to the 1993 World Trade Center bombing allegations. Are you guys listening? With the phrase jihad on NYC superimposed over the candidate. These attacks, whether based on his anti-Zionism or associations, fundamentally attempt to disqualify him by linking his faith to terrorism. Mamdani's radical ideology provides the lever of opponents to deploy institutionalized prejudice. The intensity of the opposition escalated to the level of federal intervention. Following his primary win, President Donald Trump publicly threatened to arrest, detain, and deport Mamdani for pledging to block federal immigration and customs enforcement (ICE) raids within New York. Mamdani, who could only became an American citizen in 2018, fiercely condemned the president's threats, calling them an attempt to intimidate him, silence dissent, and an attack on our democracy. This episode elevates the local mayoral race to a national battleground concerning immigrant rights and the limits of federal power over lower sanctuary policies. The fact that sitting president would threaten the citizenship and liberty of a legally nominated mayoral candidate indicates institutional opposition views Mamdani's success as an existential challenge to established order, regardless of political party. The political volatility surrounding Mamdani has translated into Queen Melinda Katz announced the indictment of Jeremy Fistel, a Texas man, for making a terroristic threats as a hate crime against Mamdani. The threats, delivered via voicemail and written messages in June and July 2025, were explicitly anti-Muslim, increasingly alarming. Fistel allegedly told Mamdani to go back to effing Uganda before someone shoots him in the effing head and threatened his family, stating they deserve to die. The indictment included 4 counts of making a terroristic threat as a hate crime, and if convicted of the top charge, the defendant faces up to 15 years in prison. This incident provides irrefutable evidence that Mamdani faces genuine life-threatening danger based on his race and religion, underscoring the severity of the political environment he operates within. Zohran Mamdani's political career is a study in disruption, defined by a complex synthesis of practical legislative achievement and uncompromising ideological radicalism. His profile is marked by a deep paradox, a proponent of revolutionary change born into wealth and global academic status, advocating for the hyperlocal interests of queen tenants. The analysis demonstrates that Mamdani is simultaneously a highly effective hyperlocal tenant advocate responsible for tangible economic relief measures like the broker fee ban and the popular free bus pilot program, and a globally focused anti-imperialist ideologue whose anti-Zionist positions and past associations are viewed as unacceptable by the establishment. His strength lies in the authenticity derived from his work as a foreclosure counselor, but his political vulnerability is exploited by opponents who focus on his elite family background and inherited ideological controversies. The political strategy has successfully utilized entertainment, hip-hop, viral campaigns to package deeply radical socialist policy goals, rent freeze, wealth taxation. This accessibly has energized a younger base. Furthermore, the conflict surrounding his career, from the inflammatory rhetoric he refuses to condemn to the explicit 9/11 references and threats of deportation he endures, ensures high public engagement. The controversy surrounding his personal identity and his family's legacy amplified the ideological battles, making him an inherently provocative figure. Ultimately, Zohran Mamdani's mayoral campaign transcends a mere municipal election. It has become a cultural and political referendum on the future of progressive governance in the United States. His success represents a profound challenge to the status quo, generating coordinated, high-stakes opposition that weaponizes rear class and identity, thereby creating a political narrative that is inherently controversial, informative, and dramatically compelling. What do you guys think? Is Zohran Mamdani good for New York? Because there's just few days left. My guess, put my money on him. I believe he's going to be the next mayor of New York City. He doesn't believe in billionaires, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, because the most billionaires in any city in the entire world, they are all located in New York. I believe, and that's my personal opinion, they're actually going to leave New York. I don't believe they're going to stay there once he actually becomes a mayor. If he's actually going to implement the things that he says he's going to implement and his policies, then all the billionaires are going to bounce. They're going to go probably to Florida or Texas. And then I'll see where he's actually going to come up with all that money. Who is he going to take that money from, since he's going to be turning New York into a socialist city? So all the money and wealth creators are going to bounce. They're going to leave to another city, another state. We'll see. Maybe he'll take it. Actually, you know what? I think he's just going to tax his own parents. Since he was born into some elite family, he's just going to tax his father and his successful mother, so that he could actually spread that wealth to the New Yorkers, you know, and have bus-free fares. He'll just tax his parents and share the wealth. He's probably a millionaire himself. He'll probably share that too, because, you know, he wants to show that everyone is equal and he supports everybody. So why not start with yourself, Zohran Mamdani? Why don't you share what you have with those that have nothing? And then we can talk. Thank you for tuning in. This has been awesome. And I thank you for actually spending your time with me. You could have clicked anywhere else or watched anything else, but you stayed with me. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm very grateful. And just want to say thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Leave the comments below. Let me know if you're interested in any other political figure or a business figure that you'd like to find out more about, or get concrete, no fluff breakdown some figure in the leadership role. Thank you, good night, and God bless. Peace.
Catch the wave, let your dreams ignite. In the world of business, reach new heights. Join the journey, hear the words unfold. Bam Bam's vision, turning stories to gold.